Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be talking about my top 10 eyeshadow picks for fall. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright, so this is by far my very favorite time of the year, and I do love to do this video every single year. But I've tried to pull palettes that are inspiring me most this year, so if there are other palettes in my collection that I've talked about that would be a great fall palette, I probably still love them. It's just that these ones are the ones that are really inspiring me to create fall makeup. So let's just hop right into it. These are in no particular order. The first one I just felt like was a given. This is the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice palette. I don't always pick up their fall palettes because I do feel that they are very repetitive. I have seen the newest one they're coming out with this year and it looks very similar to this, so I don't always pick these up, but I do think they are fun to have in the collection. I mean, when you think pumpkin spice, you definitely think fall. I love that half of this is a lighter color story, half of this is all deeper tones. You get some nice jewel tones in here, you get some nice neutrals. I think this is really pretty. It still smells like pumpkin, so I love that. I think this is great for fall. It's not the best quality. I don't think a lot of Too Faced palettes are. This is some of their best in their tin packaging, but I think this is a given for fall. Next, I pulled out the ColourPop The Child palette, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this at least last year, maybe the year before as well. I just think this is perfect for fall. I love green tones in the fall, especially greens and golds. I think they're exceptionally fun to play with in the fall, so I think there is no better time. I don't wear a ton of greens, but when I'm feeling in the mood, I would definitely go for this palette. I think this is beautiful. This one and another palette I'm going to mention shortly are definitely my main inspiration when I want something green. And I just think this is beautiful. This is excellent quality. It's fun to play with. If you're not somebody who wears green all the time, but you're maybe feeling a little bit inspired to dig into some greens for the fall, I think this is also a great option because the ColourPop 9 pans are very affordable. So I do think this is a great option for that as well. Another ColourPop palette that I have been itching to dig out is the Not a Box of Chocolates palette. So this came out, I believe, last fall, or it was closer to Christmas time. This is a very neutral brown eyeshadow palette. Now that I'm thinking about it, this would be great for that latte trend that's going around. This is perfect for that. This one, I don't know why, it's kind of lightly used by me. I've definitely used it a few times, but it's definitely a little bit more lightly used than I would expect from a brown palette. I mean, brown eyeshadows are kind of my bread and butter, so I don't know why, but I've been thinking about this one a lot, so I'm very excited to dig this out and create some warm, toasty fall eyeshadow looks. Very, very excited for that. The quality in this one is also great. I do love this little palette, so I think this is a great time to dig this one out as well. It's always a good time to dig out some brown eyeshadows, but I'm really, really feeling it right now. Okay, from Natasha Denona, we have one of her newest releases. This is the Yucca palette, and I feel like you probably knew this was coming. This looks like a fall dream. I think I said that in my initial review as well, with these greens, these very warm orangey tones almost. There is just something about this color story that screams fall to me. When I look at this, I think of trees and leaves turning, things like that. So pretty, so beautiful, and this just makes me crave fall. It has since it came out in, I think, June. So definitely going to be playing with this one even more. This one has already gotten a lot of use from me. I have a full review plus a 3 looks 1 palette with this one. I just enjoy it so much. It does push me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but sometimes that's needed. I think that a lot of the looks you create with this one end up looking kind of similar, but it's still an incredibly beautiful palette. One of my very favorite shades is Komorebi, which is this is her sparkling foiled formula, and it is the most metallic, reflective green. It is so beautiful. So I highly, highly recommend digging this one out if you picked it up. I also wanted to mention the My Dream palette because this one I believe came out last fall or toward the end of summer, and while it is kind of neutral, I feel like it's definitely leaning grungy, and I think very much of grungier tones for the fall. We have some neutral browns, we have a bright gold, we have some pinky purples in here, but we have some deeper shades. I think it's beautiful. We have a really nice black, but all of these tones just scream fall to me again with these more toasty, grungier kind of shades. So I think this is a beautiful, beautiful fall palette. You can create some really beautiful fall looks, or you can get into some of these deeper purples. I just always feel good about the looks I create with this one. I do think this is a beautiful neutral. It's just that I'm definitely more inclined to reach for it this time of year. Okay, throwing it back quite a few years from Natasha Denona, this is the Metropolis palette. I'm pretty sure I mention this every year for fall, but how can I not? This is a fall dream. I love these neutral browns, this like cranberry red, which I don't get a ton of use out of, but it adds to the fall element in my opinion. A lot of these grungier greens, some of these golds, everything about this palette just screams fall, going into holiday. This is another one that I look at this and I just see trees and leaves changing, but then moving into winter kind of thing. It's amazing what images eyeshadow palettes can put in your head, but this definitely takes me there. I love it. I think it's so, so pretty. I feel sad because I don't reach for it throughout the year, but then come fall, it's usually front and center on my vanity. So I absolutely love this one. I think if you have this old classic at this point, now is definitely the time to break it out. From ABH, I have to mention the Norvina Volume 5. I love this palette so much, and I think I've recommended it for multiple seasons, but I love it so much. I've been meaning to do a multiple looks, one palette with this one, and I still plan to do so when I have some time. But I love this. If you're into those purpley jewel tones for fall, this is such a dream. The pigmentation in here is beautiful. This is a pressed pigment palette. The shades are absolutely stunning. Some of these look a lot alike, but they actually are a little bit different. I think they're so beautiful. The shine with some of these shimmers. You can actually create some pretty neutral looks with this as well. These browns do all have sort of an undertone of purple in them, but I've created some very, very wearable looks with this palette, and that's part of why I want to create a multiple looks, because you can totally do that, but you can also make this very, very glam. So I love this palette. I can't wait to play with it more. I always feel so inspired when I'm working with this one. I'm not a big colorful eyeshadow girl. When I have this palette, I feel like I could be, you know? So I do love this one. This is probably my favorite ABH palette of all time. Also from ABH, I pulled the Rose Metals palette. So this was their holiday launch last year, and you can see from the inside, this is a very grungy color story. For the most part, this is a pretty neutral palette, but the shades are very muted, very grungy. You do get one brighter shade up here. You get some greens, you get a lot of these toasty looking browns, you get some deeper pinks. This is not my favorite color story from ABH. It's not the most easy for me to use. I don't super love grungy tones, but at the same time, I think they're incredibly appropriate for fall. So if ever I'm going to dip into them, it's going to be now. And I thought this palette would be perfect to pull out for the fall to make sure I showed this one a little bit more love. The quality in here is great. It's just not my overall favorite color story, but I will say there is no denying this is a very fall inspired palette. Okay, next I actually pulled an Alter Ego palette. So if you're not familiar with Alter Ego, they tend to create very affordable alternatives to high-end makeup. This is their Midsummer palette. They came out with this one as a dupe for the ABH Nouveau. And I originally did pull the Nouveau palette for this video, but then when I was looking at them side by side, and like I mentioned in my comparison video, this one is a little bit more muted and lends itself a little bit more to the grungy side of things than the Nouveau. The Nouveau has a certain brightness to it and warmth, and this one is a little bit more muted than that one, which gives it almost that slightly grungier feel, which makes me think it's perfect for fall. It is called the Midsummer, but I think it's perfect for fall. I love this palette. I think this is so beautiful. I love the Nouveau as well, but when I compared the two, I actually kind of like this one better, just again because it is a little bit more muted, so it leans a little bit more neutral. You don't get as much kick up with this as you do the ABH, and the shimmers are just as impactful, if not shinier. So I really, really love this palette. I think it's stunning. I think they did a great job duping the Nouveau, but I think what they ended up doing was creating a slightly better fall palette with this one. And the last one, once again, leans itself into those jewel tones if you're into those. This is the ColourPop It's a Mood palette. So this is not one of my most used, but it is one I spoke about very recently. So I mentioned this one in comparing it to the Natasha Denona Mini Starlit because I think you can get a very similar effect with this palette as that one. But when I had this palette out, it struck me again how very fall this palette is. I really don't reach for this during the year, but during the fall, it definitely comes to mind with these greens, these blues, these purples, some warm oranges, and then just some more pinky brown neutral tones here at the bottom. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful fall option. If you like to play with color, I think you'd enjoy this. If you are just trying to step outside the comfort zone and play with some more color, but you don't want to spend a fortune, say, on the ABH, I think this is a great option as well. I just think this is beautiful for those jewel tones, and this also makes me feel very fall. So I had to mention the It's a Mood palette, and that is it. Those are the top 10 palettes I am most excited to use this fall. Let me know down below some of your favorite fall palettes. Maybe I have some, maybe I should dig those out too. Let me know. I love hearing from you guys so, so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!